Hello, this is another follow-up of the examples we did earlier, but now coming back. Let me just zoom out here and show you what we're doing. This, I mentioned before, is a famous Pacific Northwest race coming down from Seattle, quite the bottom of the page here, up around into the Straits and then down around here, sometimes hugging this if there's a strong current against you. But anyway, normally you come around, you go around Protection Island and then go back down to Seattle, like that. And so here we talked, in the earlier videos, we talked about the famous cases of finding and hitting rocks along this beach. But now we come back to here. And another famous place on this race is this big spit that sticks out here. And if you look at that carefully, this is going, what do we have here? Range and bearing line, maybe from like here to here. What is that? 0.02, 120 feet. This goes from 14 fathoms to dry land. So if you use divers that go along this reef periodically and look out here, a fisherman, or they look at this big rock mound here, and it's got all kinds of keel grooves all along here, these big nasty grooves cut out in this rock. This is a rock that's 14 fathoms tall right here. And so one doesn't want to hit that. And so delete. So that's the idea. And before GPS, a lot of those marks came in there before GPS was invented or was available to sailboat racers. But now less people hit it because they have GPS. But still, it could be windy, it could be dark, it could be foggy, and so it never hurts to have some extra backup on the safety. So we have the, let's see where the boat's set up here. Boat's set up over here. And before we talked about, this is a case, now let me just see what charts are loaded. This is just plain raster chart. Let me confirm that under the chart portfolio. Right, I have just the raster charts loaded. And so here's the boat, and we'll take the anchor off. Let's see if there's any current on the boat here. No current. Okay, that's okay. Unanchor it here and put some way on. And then we don't have to drive all the way over there because we can tell from the protection line, from the projection. This is a 6-minute projection. The boat's going now 6 knots, 7 knots. Let me just, okay, go a little faster just to make the point here. So you see, and I turn a little bit right here. Yeah, so you can see there. Now, in the tide, when the tide's up a couple feet or so, this is where the tide is when the line roughly, that dots mean roughly, when the tide's 0. It's right here, but you get a foot of tide, then this is the land right here is what you're seeing. And so if you are not very experienced or don't look at your charts or whatever reason, you can drive right across that, especially, or most of the marks are right out here where people are trying to cut it as close as they can. But you see here, I'm on a raster chart, and I'm just driving right straight across there, just as if nothing's there. There's no warning possible then when you have just a raster chart. So let me stop that though for the moment and show two things. One is, let me show that, and this is something we did in another earlier video. If I go back, I'm still going to navigate on these, but I'm going to just turn on the vector charts underlying or have them loaded in the background. So back home. Now I've got vector charts on there, and I can unanchor the boat, put some way on again, And let's see what happens here. There, I'll just ski. By going faster, it's just like going slower and waiting a little longer to get up there. But now, in principle, we'll
Shallow water, 1.8 meters.
Right. So
Ahead.
1.8 meters. And I don't know if it's going to say 0 or not, but we've already...
Shallow water, 1.8 meters.
Yeah. So
Ahead.
the point is we got the warning. We got the warning because we had underlying the raster chart. We had
Shallow water, 1.8 meters.
We had the
Ahead.
We had the vector charts under there. But now if you don't have, let's just look at this again. Suppose I go to chart portfolio and suppose I do not have the vector charts. I only have raster charts. So now what you'd have to do, let me just, okay, actually I'm back. I had to pause for a minute because I had forgot where I had stored those what I wanted to show you next, but I've since found it. So I'm back. And the other thing I did was I just repositioned the boat. You can always start a scenario over again. Just go here and submit this, and that'll drive the boat back to where you started. Then you can later change it again. So I've got the boat here. But now what I'm trying to address here is what do you do if you have only raster charts and you want to take advantage of some sort of alert or boundary, and the sort of things you might learn from this tool, our eNav trainer. So we go now, I want to just set up a boundary areas, this one, turn that on. Okay, so I defined that earlier. And I just drew this line around here. And that line is then going to mark, if I can click this boundary and come over here. I can make it different colors. If you like, you can fill it in, but if you're looking at the chart, that might be a little misleading, or maybe not. If you're used to, like in Expedition, we're used to sailing a lot of times with these, what they call notes. These are boundaries that you just can't go into, and so you have to route around them. It's the same principle in a sense here. But I'll shut that off for now. So this boundary, you can put an alert on it to enable an alarm. But one of the big things that you'll learn here as you practice with your program of choice, this is one of our favorites, Coastal Explorer, and is that sometimes the alarms work differently. So in this case, for example, we have this boundary set and we expect to get an alarm. So let us do that. Turn it on and start. Get some way on. Now it's switched over to the navigation mode. I don't think that matters. You can actually run in the navigation mode or in the so-called planning mode, but here's a point I wanted to make about this. This is a different technique. You see, if we go up here and we drive in here, I'm driving right across the boundary, and furthermore, I can drive right across the land and the boundary. So in other words, the point is that when you're using the vector charts, and you're using the predictor, it's going to give you the warning at where the cog predictor is set. So you can set a warning ahead of time as far as you like. Whereas when you're using the warning of just a boundary, these are different. The boat has to cross this line. So that means you've got to be sure that you make these things out safe enough that if you are maybe distracted at the time, once you hear that alarm go off or see it go off, you'll have time to turn. And in this case, I think this is plenty of space here, assuming you're not driving in extremely fast and not paying attention. But so let's just see that in action. First, to unanchor the boat, and then get some way on. And I'll just, just to make the point here, I'm going to put on the afterburners here for the moment, so we get up there real close. I could have moved the boat up, but I'll just run up there at 30 knots. And then, or maybe even to make the point, I can adjust this a little bit here, like this, little more safety margin. So that one of the virtues then of the eNav trainer is you can work with your charting program of choice to learn how it works and just to see how the different functions actually show up on the screen. I can't go any faster than that, but I can force Mother Nature here a little bit. Give myself plenty time. So what I'm expecting is when this boat here, the GPS position of that boat, goes across this line, it should give us an alarm, and in which case it's plenty of time. But without a moving target, being able to control the direction, speed, and also current, you learn a lot more this way. So in another notch or two, we get the alarm we're looking for, I think.
Warning.
Yeah, there you go.
Cross
the
boundary. Cross boundary line.
So in that case, we better attack or fall off or do whatever we have to do at this point in a hurry. And that's nice. It just keeps warning you till you do something about it. I'll do something. I'll just drop the anchor here. Whoops. Drop the anchor. And but I'm still across the boundary, so I'll just shut that off then. So this is a navigation mode, and we'll have other. Then we can go to the so-called planning mode here. Planning mode, and back to more chart this way. So that's just another exercise using Coastal Explorer, a very versatile program, and the StarPath eNav trainer.